Oh, Michael! Oh, God! Oh, God! Oh, I can't take it! Oh, fuck my life!
I can't see you! Take my hand now! David! Grab my hand!
It's the most wonderful time of the year for us horror fans. Every day in October is technically Halloween. I mean, actually, let's be honest, every day of the year is Halloween for us hardcore horror fans. And today, I'm here to talk about the highly anticipated Halloween Kills, the sequel to 2018's Halloween, directed by David Gordon Green. It was a reboot released by Blumhouse Productions, and it seemed to have gotten a mostly positive reception from fans, although some people did criticize it for its kind of inconsistent tone. Like, for every brutal kill, there was a joke about, like, PB and jelly sandwiches, or there was that really awkward scene where the dad is talking about how he got, like, peanut butter on his penis. Typical dialogue you'd find in a Halloween movie, let's be honest. Thankfully, this sequel, Halloween Kills, does tone back, on the lame jokes, and I just have to say this up front. It is a much, much more grisly and kind of disturbing entry in the Halloween series. Now, if you look at the Rotten Tomatoes score for this movie, it's become abundantly clear that critics aren't necessarily liking this one very much. In fact, they've been saying some pretty mean things about it, and it definitely is not getting the warm reception that the 2018 film got. And, slasher films in general have never really gotten a very nice response from critics, unless they're meta, a la Scream, or light on gore, like the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or heck, even the original Halloween. And to be honest, this film, it goes up to 11. The kills in this are bloody, they're gruesome. The first film did receive some complaints from hardcore fans that the kills weren't intense enough. Well, this sequel makes it a point to correct that, because some of the kill sequences in this movie are just downright brutal. If you thought Rob Zombie got crazy in his Halloween remake, this film puts Rob Zombie to utter shame. Now, just a little bit of a history with me and Halloween, guys. I am a die-hard Halloween fanatic. In fact, as you can see, I had a little Halloween display here for you guys. I have the Halloween, the complete Blu-ray collection. This is actually very, very hard to find nowadays. I bought it many years ago when it was first released. I have I have the 2018 Michael Myers mask, which you saw in the opening skit. By the way, guys, I just want to give a shout out to my friends Aaron and Brian, who helped me film that skit. We had a ton of fun making it, although I think I did disturb the neighbors just a little bit. And, if you'd like that, we have other skits on this channel that you can check out, at the start of other movie reviews. But as you can see, I also have a tiny Michael Myers that I like to play with. I don't see any shame in playing with a tiny Michael Myers. The king of the slashers. I like to play with him every now and then.
That's what she said!
Anyway, the original Halloween, I'm pretty sure that was the first intense horror movie that I ever watched as a young child. And by intense, I mean the first R-rated horror movie that I ever watched. We rented it on VHS from Blockbuster, I remember. Remember Blockbuster Video? Shit. And, after watching it, I just felt immediately just paralyzed. Like, I had difficulty sleeping that night. I would see Michael's white, just emotionless face, in the dark. It had a really big effect on me, and ever since then, I have been a huge Halloween fanatic. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the original Halloween was actually what kickstarted my love of horror, to be honest, because the reason I love horror movies so much is because they allow me to conquer my fears in a controlled environment. After watching a really intense horror movie, I feel like I've conquered something. But yes, I'm a huge Halloween fan, even though some of the sequels haven't been the best. This sequel... Okay, so like I said, the critics haven't been very kind to this movie, but honestly, I thought the good outweighed the bad in this film. I definitely have some problems with it. Here's the thing, guys. The original Halloween was a very subtle and subdued film. Well, not necessarily subtle, but it was very subdued. There was hardly any gore, there was hardly any bloodshed. I mean, that film was incredibly tame to some of the stuff we see nowadays. Halloween Kills is bloody. And the problem with that is that some of the sequences in this movie are very typical. Like, characters would make these very questionable decisions, and they often act very stupidly. You know, like all these side characters. These are the kind of side characters that you would see pop up in a very average slasher flick. Just these very clueless characters who make the most unbelievable decisions. And by the way, I've seen plenty of horror movies where a character doesn't know how to aim a gun. There are several instances in this movie where a character is shooting at Michael, he'll be standing like maybe 2 feet in front of them, and they miss entirely. That was utterly absurd. But the kills were quite a sight to see. You know, it was very entertaining. Does it go too far? I guess you could make that argument, but, I mean, let's be honest, guys. I mean, as fans of the Halloween franchise, I mean, that's what, you know, we want to see. That's what we go to the movie theater to watch. I mean, I definitely respect the heck out of the original. I mean, it was incredibly innovative for its time, and John Carpenter directed that film just masterfully. I mean, you know, just what he was able to bring to that film, I mean, it was just incredible. David Gordon Green admittedly is no John Carpenter. In fact, there are a couple of instances where he shakes the camera a little bit too much, and he does insert some quick edits that did get under my skin a little bit. But yeah, if those are my complaints, those are my biggest complaints. You know, typical characters you would see in a slasher movie. Oh, okay. So let's talk about this film's narrative structure. So it's been, you know, reported in several articles and videos that this film does flash back to the original 1978 film. You know, they bring back Donald Pleasance's character, Dr. Loomis. I'm going to assume what they did was that they found an actor who was very similar looking, and then they just altered his face with CGI to make him look even more like Donald Pleasance. I'm pretty sure that's what they did. Not to spoil too much, but it does flash back to 1978. We see, you know, what happened, you know, the rest of that night with Michael Myers. And, okay, right off the bat, you know, one of the main characters from the 2018 Halloween, you know, does reappear here in the opening moments of this film. And in the 1978 flashback sequence, we see a younger version of this character. And the way that it's set up, at least in any other horror movie, this character would be the primary protagonist. But that's not necessarily the case. In fact, this character is pretty much sidelined for the majority of the movie. They are literally stuck in a bed. I just thought that was very odd, at least from a writing perspective. And speaking of characters who are sidelined, Jamie Lee Curtis. Jamie Lee Curtis, if you remember at the end of Halloween 2018, you know, she was mortally wounded by Michael. You know, she was stabbed in the gut. And here, you know, as you saw in the trailer, she's pretty much stuck in a hospital. It seemed, especially since this is a trilogy, it seemed odd that the first Halloween, the one that came out in 2018, spent so much time developing Laurie's character, and in this middle chapter, she's pretty much stuck in a single location for the majority of the movie. I thought that was a little bit odd. They didn't really do much to develop her character. In fact, they didn't really do much to develop Judy Greer's character either. She was another central player in the 2018 Halloween, and they didn't really do much with her character either. I thought that was a bit odd. The teenage daughter does get, you know, a bit more to do. You know, as you've seen in the trailers, you know, she joins the hunt for Michael Myers, which, by the way, okay, I've got some positive things to say about the social commentary in this movie, because I thought this film had some really interesting ideas. The idea of this community coming undone. You know, the fact that Michael Myers, you know, himself being a monster, is able to create, you know, other monsters. You know, these people, you know, these citizens have just become completely shook, you know, by these events, and they are desperate to catch him. They're desperate to hunt him down and kill him, you know, for what he's done to their community. And it kind of reminded me of 2007's The Mist. If you remember, in The Mist, you have these group of survivors stuck in this grocery store, and we see what happens to civilized human beings when they're put in a very stressful situation.
And it is his fault. Yes,
No!
it is your fault.
No! It is not my fault!
You, they did it. They stick in the eye of the Almighty.
Yes, it is! No! Get over here!
And that's what happens in Halloween Kills. The citizens of Haddonfield come together to stop Michael Myers, but they get very panicky and they get very violent. And it has a lot to say about, mob mentality, and I thought that was actually really well done. You wouldn't find commentary like that in your typical slasher film, which is why I'm just flabbergasted by the reviews that this is getting, because I thought it was better written than a lot of the critics are giving it credit for.
Oh man, I got peanut butter on my penis.
As far as returning characters, it was nice to see, Tommy Doyle show up again. And, not to get into too much spoilers again, but there are other characters from the 1978 film, actors who I actually haven't seen in a long, long time, make an appearance in this movie, which is interesting. And, honestly, it did warm my heart to see these characters again, played by these actors, because it made Halloween Kills feel more official, shall I say. You have these, characters from, the 1978 classic coming back, and it just warmed my heart. I love seeing them again in this film, and Anthony Michael Hall's Tommy Doyle does get a lot of focus in this movie. He's pretty much the central hero. And, like I said earlier, it is a bit odd that he gets more focus than Laurie Strode in this movie, especially, given how much development she got in the 2018 film, which, by the way, let's talk about that, guys. Overall, I would say I liked the 2018 film just a smidgen more. I thought the writing overall was a bit better in that film, and I know I've already complained about the lame comedy in that film, but they weren't afraid to show what happens to people when they've been traumatized by an event. I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis's character in the first film, she went through hell in the 1978 film. So we see how that's impacted her life, how it's impacted her mental state, how she is, passed this paranoia onto her, family members. And I thought the 2018 film was very fascinating in that regard. This film, while I did like the social commentary, the story wasn't the greatest. The story was pretty slim, I will say that. And, by the end, again, no spoilers, but it's obvious that there's going to be another film. This does end technically on a cliffhanger, which, I've heard this ending has caught some people off guard. I kind of saw it coming, to be honest. I had a feeling that they were going to go this route. And the final shot was really cool, I just gotta say that. And something that the other Halloween films, haven't really tapped on. I mean, what is Michael Myers ultimately, looking for? He's obviously evil, and he's out to kill people, but this film makes it clear that he's actually after something else. I'm not gonna spoil it, but that was another thing I found pretty interesting.
You and Allison should not have to keep running. Evil dies tonight.
As far as the visual style of this movie, when it flashes back to 1978, they do a pretty decent job in recreating the look of the original movie. In fact, there were times where I could have sworn that they had brought back the same cinematographer, Dean Cundy. Dean Cundy shot the original film. David Gordon Green did a pretty good job, recreating the original film. Although, it did annoy me that when Michael did show up in certain spots, he inserted some quick edits and some shaky cam. John Carpenter wouldn't have done that. He definitely wouldn't have done, crazy shaky cam. He wouldn't have inserted these quick cuts, and yeah, that took me out of the movie just a little bit. But overall, the visual style of this movie, it was grungy, it was dark. There were scenes that were very, dimly lit, which I thought was appropriate because you want a spooky atmosphere in a Halloween movie. I mean, some of the other Halloween movies have provided some tremendously creepy atmosphere. Particularly, I thought Part 2, or Halloween 2, the original Halloween 2, I thought that had some very effective, settings. And I thought the cinematography in Part 2 was actually just as good as the cinematography in Part 1, to be honest. Now, as far as where I would rank Halloween Kills among the other films, I would say it's probably... oh boy. I would say it's probably the third best. The first obviously being the original, the second being the 2018 film, and then I would probably put this at number 3. Oh, just one more thing I gotta mention, guys. So John Carpenter's score from this movie, I mean, he does bring back a lot of the classic themes, but he does insert some new bits, here and there. My favorite track in this film is called Unkillable. At least I think that's what it's called. I'm pretty sure it's called Unkillable. And, the way they use it in this movie was perfect. And I just thought John Carpenter did a terrific job, with the music in this film. It's really cool that he stayed so active, as a musician. He retired from Hollywood a long time ago, so it's nice to know that he's, still making art. And you know what? Good for him. He's a guy that you can really admire. I will be completely honest about that.
Michael Myers is flesh and blood, but a man couldn't have survived that fire. The more he kills, the more he transcends.
So yes, I hope Halloween Kills makes a killing at the box office. Haha. And, for us Halloween fans, I thought it definitely delivered. It's a fun film to watch this time of year. See it in a big group. I mean, you'll probably have a really good time. Now, this was one of my most anticipated films of the year. I'm glad that I finally got to watch it because God knows it took forever for this thing to finally come out. I'm curious as far as what they're going to do in Halloween Ends, which is currently scheduled to come out next October. I have some serious questions about where they're going to take the narrative, because how the hell can you stop Michael Myers? I mean, he's just an unstoppable force of nature. But yes, guys, thank you so much for joining me in my discussion of Halloween Kills. Definitely one of the better Halloween sequels. Some people might have a problem with its slim storyline, but I thought it made up with that with some interesting social commentary and some pretty damn decent kills. It lives up to the title, Halloween Kills. But yes, I would love to know what your thoughts on Halloween Kills. Please leave them down below. As far as what's coming out for the rest of the year, I can't really think of any big horror movies that I'm particularly excited for. Oh, Antlers. Antlers, directed by Scott Cooper and produced by Guillermo del Toro. That looks fascinating. I'm excited to see that. We'll probably review that at the end of this month when it comes out. But yes, thank you again, guys. Let me know what you thought. Michael Myers' newest film. Long live the King of Slashers. I love you. Yes, thank you again, guys. I hope you're enjoying your Halloween season and, eat lots of candy, drink, lots of pumpkin juice. Yeah, I made a Harry Potter reference. Yes, thank you again, guys. Happy month of October. Hope you have a very scary day, boils and ghouls. And if you like this, please subscribe to our channel, Round the Clock Frights, for more horrific content. And stay scary, and whatever you do, if you see the boogeyman, just turn tail and run. Trust me. Do not go up against Michael Myers. He's a William Shatner fan, after all. William Shatner is a human being. Anyway, thanks again, guys. Take care, and happy Halloween.